We're going back to the basics. Back to the basics. Sweater, glasses. That was good, Shaz, but let's keep the standard for the rest. We're almost done with the Occupy stuff. We're gonna finish the Occupy today. How do you gain 20 pounds in 2 months? Lots and lots of chocolate. Oh my god. I'm eating like my parents. Oh, such bad eating habits. In my house, I don't buy treats. Because the same thing with weed. If I want to take a break, I don't keep it on me. Because if I have it, I'll smoke it. Same thing with fucking candy. It's like you don't have to be anal retentive about shit. I work on my discipline in certain things, but other things I don't mind having as indulgences. I just out of sight, out of mind. Nah, I have self-control. But there's a time to be candy man. There's a time to be weed man. This is a time to be Occupy Wall Street man. It's so interesting going through these. Wait, let me go back. Although, if you're watching these videos, then you could follow along with the shit yourself. Look at me. Shaz. Back then, so confident as to the ideas. I'm just trying to connect the dots. Feeling like sincere inquiry and connection of stuff. Never a bad thing. I think we got 2 more hours. We got this one 3 to 4. How many hours? I've done 3. I did 2, showered, did 1. 2 more. We're gonna do Max dialogues because I want to read all those. Max is one of the smartest people I met in the occupation. He was a teacher. People like Max, other people, if I'm going to write this book, it's like, these are the people I'd fucking seek out. I'd be like, yo, what the fuck happened? We should process. I haven't read a real book about it. Where's our Norman Mailers? Am I the Norman Mailer of the Occupy movement? Or the Ken Kesey? I'd much rather be the Ken Kesey. Although, who was the guy that wrote the Electric Kool-Aid? That was a good guy. Alright, let's read this. Max dialogues. Forgive the chewing. I don't know how people talk for 3, 4, or 5 hours a day. These talk show hosts. It's like, it's tiring, dude. It is tiring just to yak. That's why I think you get a little emotional. That's why it would be nice to have the weed because you could just get stoned. But then things would take a lot longer too. I was definitely more tangential on the herb. There's like 20 different fucking trains of thoughts that I didn't wrap up. Although when I watch this again, it's going to be helpful because when I go off on a tangent, the observer might not know where I went, but when I watch it, I could be like, all right, I was going there. I was going to talk about this dog, and I never got around to that story. But I remember I wanted to get that story, and I think I mentioned it a little bit, enough where I'll remember it when I watch it. Whatever you do, make sure you're doing it for you first. Unless you know you're being, I don't know, don't be selfish, but at the same time, no one's going to get your needs met unless you voice them or try to yourself. I'm being naked so much, now I feel weird with clothes on. You get used to not wearing clothes. Working groups, project teams. Talk to me at shazbarbaric.com. I have like 20 different emails. Shaz at shazbarbaric.com. Eat a dick at shazbarbaric.com. Talk to me at shazbarbaric.com. I knew how to set up a Gmail on a website. Max, me and M, that girl, Miss M, was in the occupied office. I had made connections so I could get into the office. I had a working group, Occupy Farms. I had an excuse to be a part of the bureaucracy. Fly on the wall. Don't mind me, business, fly Shaz on the wall. Until people figured out I was really a bumblebee. Shaz with his stinger of justice and idealistic virtue. I sting and I slash at bureaucracy and fucking cold, callous activism, which divorces itself from the popular spirit. But Max was always in bureaucratic structures. Everyone appreciated his mind. Very smart dude. He was a teacher. Max, can you help us with this? Max, facilitate discussions. Max, can you help us? Little diminutive guy with glasses. Imagine me, but smaller and dorkier. Well, smaller at least. And so M was talking to Max. Max didn't know how to deal with her emotional. She was like, you get these people who are just like, I want to be a part of changing the world. I just don't know how to get involved. Your structure fucking is weird, and you guys don't. Is this a movement? Who's in charge, or what's going on, or how can I get involved? So many people. That's what I told Max. I was like, so many people. That's how I met Max. I took her aside. I was like, what's your name? And she wouldn't really give me her name. I was like, that's fine. That's fine. I made up a last name for her. I was like, what's your email? I'll keep you involved. See, we're organized. I explained to her the structure as I saw it best as I could at that time. There's general assemblies, and then we have these spokes councils, and these working groups. You get involved in one of the working groups. If you think that there's a working group that should be created that you don't see is created, go and create one. This is how you do that. You have to go towards the general assembly and tell them you're doing something. Do a announcement, and then people could come and start joining you. And if you meet these requirements of people and how you're keeping minutes, you could get added onto our website. We had nycga.net where you can add the working groups. And now once you're officially recognized, you can start asking for money from the GA. All of these bureaucratic processes that they don't want to onboard people. They don't want to. We already have too big of a bureaucracy. So many chiefs, not enough Indians. So that's why I met Max. Everyone acknowledged he's one of the better chiefs running around. I mean, it seemed like he had a good heart. We'll see by how he writes here. I don't know. Maybe it was just like better at covering up his douchebaggery. But yeah, I was over helping this girl, M, who was cute, and like I was helping her. I felt I would run across these spirits a lot. That one that I wrote down that poem, basically her free association of her words. That black girl from like fucking Bensonhurst or somewhere deep out in the Brooklyn. She was East New York maybe. That's what this girl felt like, just overpowering. She started crying. A lot of these girls would start crying. Not so much the dudes. I teared up once walking around at night, but you talk to them, there's just so much energy and like, I'm here. This is where the revolution movement is. Let's do something. So me and him both tried to help her out a little bit. He let her crash at his place for a little bit. He had a place in Brooklyn. A lot of these kids who were helping out with the movement all lived in a similar area in Brooklyn. Crown Heights, I think. It sort of tells you the social class and what they're doing with their life. College kids moving out to Crown Heights, cheap rent. I cannot eat all these chocolates. See, that's the thing, is my body will tell me, you know what, not gonna be a stomach ache though, Shaz. 5-year-old Shaz. Not gonna be a stomach ache. Me and my dad got in an argument this morning, then he leaves me all these chocolates. Come on, Pops. I'm not trying to fucking eat my emotions. But genetically we're both predisposed to maybe. Thanks for sharing the doc, Max. I think you're right on and heading off a lot of concerns. My personal temperature check is a lot of people in admin and the movement in general would appreciate the reform and clarification. Currently, I was working on a possible project. This is Shaz's little fucking 100-mile-an-hour brain. I'm like, these are only a couple of the projects that I thought of over the couple weeks I was involved in the movement. OWS, 10-week review. Who are we and where did our org communication tools originate? Consensus, origin narrative. What do we see as our mission statement? To prove the viability of alternative social models, to create a space for this discussion. Why? What are our values as an org and individuals? Open source, econ justice, democracy, respect, nonviolence. When? What are our short, medium, and long-term goals? Winterization, movement building, political action, pragmatic social reform. How effective have we been as a movement? Financial audit, action review, on micro and macro scale, including timeline. Your org reform seems very pragmatic to address our current functionality needs, with you basically saying that the solution has already been implemented and just needs to be embraced. I was thinking a comprehensive review, bulleted and presented to the GA, would help with buy-in from the community for not only structural adjustments, but a host of other issues that need addressing. I was thinking the review could be proposed Thursday, Turkey Day, with suggestions for reform or establishment as the cases of origination, values, and goals. Perhaps there could be suggestions on a working group level to show how their functionality might be affected and the possible benefits they could reap. Then the issue could be tabled until Saturday, Sunday GA for feedback, friendly amendments, hopefully reforms then consensus upon. Consensus is achieved outside legislative bodies. I don't relish dragging such a comprehensive analysis through GA mic check system. But an intro and conclusion, sandwiching a couple of needed days of caucusing, might make it doable. And the extensive archival nature of the project interests me from a working group perspective, similar to a president's first 100 days. So this is before I was doing with the farms. This is around Thanksgiving, mid to end, November 21st. We've been kicked out of the park for like 5 days now. And I was like, all right, let's unify the fucking, this is just instinctually, I guess. Unify the culture and the values, and let's unify our identity, make ourselves stronger as a movement. I should have just done shit, but instead I was asking permission, and I recognized in Max another smart organizer who was respected in the community. So I was like, maybe this is a partner in crime to do some of this shit. But when I read back over this, I think I was probably talking over his head, and he just wanted little incremental stuff. He didn't see the bigger picture. We're going to read some of his shit. We'll see where Max is coming from. But after making money in real estate and some other shit, I'm just like, stop. Like they say, don't punch down. Don't reach down either. Like sometimes it's like, reach across, reach upward. Partnership downwards. What has Max done? And that's what's really interesting, to let this Occupy movement just sit for a while, and then I come back to it after I did real estate. What'd you do in the 7 years since Occupy Wall Street? I could ask people. Because I went and built a fucking business. So like I've learned how to execute. Something I never did before. I got into an industry. I learned how to, if not master it, at least become a journeyman and build a corporation and a business. So now if we want to protest again, now I can be like a guy who's like, all right, let's turn this into a nonprofit. I'm pretty sure I can do the paperwork and fucking figure this out. I've dealt with money and corporations and shit before. Had employees. I haven't perfected that, but I've started the process of learning how to be an entrepreneur. Hands-on. I don't know what these other guys have done. And then they'll show you their character and their aptitude level. It's like, enough talk. What the fuck have you done with your life? That's right. So back then, I think the insecurity was that I needed like permission to do shit that, if I just ran with some of these ideas, it would have been really fucking interesting, I think. The objectives would be as following. Reformed working group models along the lines suggested, consensus on narratives that will be useful, and the eventual creation of a dedicated, comprehensive in-processing team. That was my dream. From only 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the park. On the 21st, I was like, we need a comprehensive, dedicated in-processing team because the people are our strength. Educating newly arrived on OWS origins, values, ethics, goals, and tools at their disposal. Basically, there's like that quote, be who you needed when you were young. I wanted to be who I was needed when I came to the park. Can I plug in? Yes. This is what we believe in. These are our tools. Thank you for coming out to the movement. The world's going to change because we created a convergence zone where a lot of people are coming together in order to fucking change shit. That's what I saw as the benefit of Occupy Wall Street. That was the promise. Just like some people look at the internet with the same promise of connection and reinventing our world. And other people look at it as a way to sell shit. Reinforcement of financial accountability by creating a public, accessible, and by finance's best practices code of conduct. So 4 objectives. Reforming the working group model, which Max was already on. That's all he was on. I was like, in processing. So what is the story that we're telling ourselves? And then how do we onboard other people? That's like any basic corporate culture 101 nowadays. With startups, people who want to grow to be like that unicorn, they're like, be sure you know what your narrative is, your story. Control your story. Only people say the narrative with no respect for objective truth. Control the narrative. Frame the discussion. No, dude, just fucking let's check our blind spots and find out what's objectively true and then align with that. Let's just not try to convince people of what serves our interests. That's fucking weirdly sociopathic. I have more. I would email Max a lot. One of the few people I was like, I could just email him what I want. Usually with people I hold back a little bit, intellectually or romantically too. That whole 800 word count rule. Don't talk too much. Slow roll. You have a lot to say. But people like Max are like that Leia girl. I never feel like I'm overwhelming people like that. It's like, oh, another really fucking cerebral fucking high-speed person. Perpetuating mass buy-in at a much-needed time in the movement when we have a diaspora facing critical logistical and moral issues, establishment of an action review process to prevent future issues from being ignored, My own personal passion is the establishment of an OWS university. As you noticed, I've been practicing the methods on an individual basis. That was the girl that basically, when I saw him not knowing to do how to deal with her verge of tears, and when she started talking to me, she actually broke down and cried. She was just in the office, but like, what do I do? Is you guys are in this office. There's people out there in the park. Why do you guys get this office and they get them? Somehow she made it up to our little secret fucking meeting nest that was donated, and she was like, "Why are you guys up here? Are you the movement? Where's the movement? Are you guys the nerve center? Are you? We didn't elect you guys. Why do you guys think that you can represent the movement?" So I told him, I took her off his hands. As how I made friends with him. I was like, "Let me talk to you," and I tried to onboard her best I could based off of these tools that I was trying to develop. As you've noticed, I've been practicing the methods on an individual basis when I find the opportunity. You're working on org reform. There's always already a financial review underway, somewhat. Narratives are being developed. Short and midterm housing is being discussed. These things are already in process. A 10-week review would basically be an ad hoc team of people working on them to present their findings in a concise manner, generating buy-in and establishing a precedent for OWS review on a larger scale. I wanted to turn the movement a little bit, control its own narrative and its own identity, because we're falling apart. It's an organic process, meaning whether we assert the actions above or take a more passive approach, we're going to grow something. It's just a matter of whether we want to guide the sapling now or try to bend our crooked trees of the future. For the record, I view Spokes as a crooked-ass tree. As always, your insight is appreciated, Max. Shaz. Hey, Shaz, so are you looking to bring this to the GA before or after the review process? I think it's important to clarify what here is a community decision requiring subject to GA consensus. Performing the review is not a community decision. It's the decision of those who choose to perform it. And by the way, I think this is a great idea. Changing the structure of working groups is not a consensus decision. Creating an in-processing team is not a community decision. Creating buy-in clearly is not a matter of consensus decision. It's a prerequisite for it. Determining any kind of official narrative bearing on origin, values, ethics, and goals of the movement is definitely a community decision, and one of the community that has been the community has been consistently reluctant to commit to, though we may need it now more than ever. Creating a code of conduct for finances might be a community decision if you want all working groups to follow it, but it would be difficult to even determine whether working groups were following it. Really, finance would have to require it and oversee it in some way for it to have any teeth. Again, I think there should be such a code. It's just hard to see how you put it in place. This is a big issue in Kitchen and elsewhere, and an obvious need. An action review process could be consensus upon, but it would only happen if individuals choose to take it up. And if individuals did choose to take it up, they could carry it out, whether the GA has consensus upon it or not. So again, I think it's less a matter of community decision and more a matter of individual initiative. I hope you see I'm not trying to say this because I'm against process or impatient with the GA. It's true. I think the GA is not really a legitimate body. Due to its low attendance by those invested in the movement and high attendance by those not so invested. But my reasons for viewing so many things as individual decisions has to do with the actual relationship between individual action and GA authority within the movement. The GA cannot force anyone to do anything nor prevent them from doing it. In reality, it can only do three kinds of things. It can allocate funds, it can put the official OWS stamp on things, or remove that stamp, and it can reform and modify its own processes. It really can't do much else. What have you got against Spokes? See, so there were two parliamentary bodies that were founded in the beginning of the Occupy Wall Street movement. The General Assembly by people like David Graeber, who came out at a political protest where they're just going to turn it into a rally, and they turned it into a General Assembly. And that, plus the occupation of people camping, is what created the movement OWS. I'm pretty sure if you just had the protest and the camping, it wouldn't have spread to other cities. But the General Assembly and that inclusive discussion where people felt like their voices were being heard is what made it feel like a real movement, because it was a form of civic discussion which we were starving for in America. And so many good ideas and cross-pollination ideas and connections and working groups respond out of that. Now, people like Max and other people, this is where I kind of think he's a douche. It's like they would delegitimize the GA because they only saw the ineffectiveness of a bunch of fucking screaming there's people who are scared of the hordes, and they're like, well, spokes is a lot more intimate and more organized because these are the leaders of the working groups. But since we didn't have clear onboarding, we had a lot of people in spokes and the working groups who weren't the people who came out originally to protest in the parks, but the people who just know how to. That's the tyranny of structurelessness by I said Maureen Friedman, Joreen Friedman. But the tyranny of structurelessness, read that article, and that's what was going on in Occupy Wall Street. We claimed we didn't have a structure, but we did have structures taking place, and people adept at climbing those types of structures. So the people go to college and school and are just used to climbing power hierarchies, versus the people who work jobs and are just poor and fell off the social rails. They were the ones who were infecting and infiltrating the bureaucrats, and bureaucrat-type personalities were infecting Spokes Council and the higher forms of bureaucracy. And the GA was nice because the GA was just a populist spirit of just like any person had a veto, everyone had a vote, and we'd all talk until we consensed together around what we thought was more important. Then these people are like, the GA is just the rabble. No, the bureaucracies that we're creating are where it's at. But that's the direction it went, and that's how we got the movement we got. That's why it fucking choked on itself. Without the GA, that's why I said in the last piece. That's what I was coming to. But that last piece was written in end of April or early March, right before I left Occupy Wall Street. This is November. I'm still formulating these ideas. P.S. I'm very excited about the in-processing OWSU project you're working on. I think it's great and want to observe more. Oh, really, Max? Really? Hey Max, a lot going on the last couple of days. First off, I hope you've been enjoying your time off. Second, I'll be making a proposal tonight at GA's at tonight's GA, the buy-in, buy-out. Third, I've created the following working groups: Occupy Farms, a plan on how to manage 56 acres of donated farmland 60 miles west of Woodstock. OWS University to formalize an in-processing and traveling occupier debriefing system. Emailed you a link to the Google Doc. As always, feedback appreciated. Occupy. Look at my little signature. Why does this email 5 sentences or less? Aw. Yeah, I'd read something like 5 sentences or less email. I read this book about meetings, corporate meetings, and how to have more efficient meetings. We were having so many meetings. It's like, all right, this corporate culture is fucking infecting Occupy Wall Street. That's what it is. All these guys are trying to run the fucking movement like you would run a little startup or like be a little CEO. Those are their blind spots. But everyone came to the movement with their version of the truth, and that's what it is, better communication skills. So you can bring your strength without denying other people's strengths or feeling like something that you're not familiar with is a weakness, I always felt that it was practice. I was like, this isn't the revolution, but this is a good dry run. Which is how I was able to act so emotionally charged. It was just fun. Write a book on revolution and then I get to practice my fucking ideals right there in real life. So it's a trip. Shaz Bar to Occupy Max. It's a truism that external concerns usually reveal internal blind spots. You've been talking about morale and buy-in since I've been here, but I think you're coming to terms with your own degree of burnout. I just wanted to shoot you perhaps a different perspective, stepped back from even the OWS movement itself. You step back too far, it's just a generalization about life, but I don't think you're that lost. I think you're just a little frustrated by the decision-making process here in OWS. What I see as your skill set is a quick mind, which of course would be frustrated by process. I think I'm a smart guy, but I can acknowledge that you think faster than me. My skill, hopefully, is the bigger picture, which sometimes takes a slower process, like a camping trip and some weed. So embrace your personality, even the frustration when it confronts reality. Utilize your strengths and delegate the rest. Recently, I thought of an interesting Robert Greene book, 33 Strategies of War. In case you don't know, Greene is a douche of a history nerd with decent prose, but no character or ethical stance other than the will to power. See, Shaz doesn't like most people he reads. But he's now very rich, and his books, for what they're worth, include tactical and strategical gems from history. For you, Max, I suggest the counterbalance strategy. Do not lose your presence of mind amidst the turmoil. 2 tactics included are the hyper-aggressive and the detached Buddha, both utilizing the following techniques. Avoid frustrations. Maintain presence of mind. Establish stability by continually seeking out conflict. Focus on what you are confident in. Develop a process for decisive actions. Like all true wisdom, you already know and have been applying this. You don't tolerate ignorance that frustrates you. You're very aware, have a search and destroy attitude for problem solving. Know, hopefully, your strengths and are trying to advocate organizational reform that promotes more efficient decision making. So we're back to where we started. You know and aren't enacting any advice I could give, so I'm left with the sole responsibility of wishing you luck and patience while you recharge your batteries. If people like you weren't here, I wouldn't stay. And I have a feeling the inverse might prove true as well. Or hopefully not, because I have a lot of camping and weed smoking to do in the near future. Anyways, have a good Thanksgiving, man. Yeah, he said he was taking off for a break for Thanksgiving, and I was like, oh, let me send Max a nice little email, a nice little smart person to smart person email. Look at these smart ways in which I'm going to compliment you. Hi, Shaz. Thank you for your email. It's interesting the personas we take within the movement. Outside of OWS, I'm generally a slow-moving, patient, mildly perfectionist type. It's nice to find another side of myself. I want to clarify, though, I have no problem with process. I just think that there's an important distinction between individual small group and community decisions. For example, whether or not a working group restructures itself in light of the document I wrote up is up to the working groups. The GA cannot force it to restructure nor prevent it from restructuring. Therefore, it makes no sense to bring my document to the GA. On the other hand, the content that goes on our website seems to me to represent the entire movement and therefore ought to get GA approval, etc. The truth is, I like process a lot, and I'm perfectly happy to bring a proposal many times and keep tweaking it in response to feedback until it represents the interests and ideas of the group. What does bother me when I'm feeling irritable is bad process. Sitting through a 15-minute discussion in a full 30 to 40 person facilitation meeting about the thoroughly unconsidered question of a quorum for GA is a waste of a lot of people's time. The people most interested in this question ought to work together to incubate a proposal, then bring that proposal back to the full facilitation group for feedback and table it for more tweaking if it doesn't pass quickly. Wasted time is a pretty significant problem in this movement, isn't it, Max? Because that's what, at the very end, I realized that, no, it's not efficiency, it's values and the right conversations. But then I can see what he's saying. It's not like he doesn't have a point. We have these GAs and we fucking waste time, but that's more about if we have better values and we can hold people accountable. We can have meetings can be efficiently run without going against their values. But you have to slow down to the building blocks. We are associated around values, and we buy into those and leave our ego at the door. So if you're holding up our meeting, it better be a life or death situation with one of the values that we've all bought into. Otherwise, you're sacrificing our values for your own ego and your own personal cause. And then that's self-evidently not in the group interest, and now you have to be excluded from the group. But you have to have that fucking hammer to keep order. My meetings were never inefficient. When we did the Occupy Farms and other stuff, people were like, oh my gosh, you guys actually have efficient meetings. Yeah, people try to act stupid. I'm like, I hear what you're saying, but we're trying to run this meeting now. If there's something on the side or something later on, you could talk to me, but you're not going to interrupt everyone else talking. You need to have a strong personality to run these meetings. I saw that too. Anyways, if I can get a little perspective, I'll probably be able to figure out why I still believe in this enough to devote myself to it. But I need that space to reset. Lately, I've been getting more sleep, working less. I've been grumpier than I was 10 days ago, and I was working like a dog for something I believed in wholeheartedly. Plus, I have some personal issues unrelated to the movement that are getting under my skin. Hopefully, you stick around for a while before you hit the tents. I will miss you. Aww. We're developing a bromance. I'm so fucking impetuous with my judgments of people. That's why you got to just like talk to people in person. Like, Max is a douche. Oh, he sent me a nice email though. Or what is this? Is this fucking trying to figure out? All right. So I did November 24th, number 1. If you're in a hurry, 2-sentence summary is included below my signature. Uh-oh, this is one of those Shaz emails. Well, regarding the Finance Code of Conduct, I was hoping by including it in a broad reform analysis and proposing it more as a historical 10-week review, that a necessary audit wouldn't be so defensive. A good written process will always be in the group's best interest, as I've told Bianca about this office space, because then you have a neutral code to always to refer to and take yourself out of the picture. Right? And Bianca's the girl who ran our occupied office. It was donated by someone anonymously. And then you had people like Bianca who's sitting there who, like, I don't know if she worked for the anonymous donor. We don't know where she came from. It's like we were all protesting in the park, but then when we're given these, here's an office where you guys could work out of, here's something else. And then you notice this person came and asked you, who are you? Oh, I'm just managing this space. For who? I was voted in. I don't know why she was there. I hit on her though. You know what? No, not hard. I was just like, yo, Bianca, when are we gonna get a drink? I didn't have any money for a fucking beer. She was like, just ignored me. I had her number because I had to fucking like get in and out of the office and prove that I had a working group and I was allowed to get in there. But she a cutie with the booty. I was like, yo, Bianca, but when are we gonna like hang out sometime though? Yo, you're killing me, Bianca. I'm pretty sure I was polite. Because then you have a neutral code to refer to and take yourself out of the picture. Right now, these groups that manage resources are creating their own codes ad hoc because they're afraid of access and scarcity. Valid concerns, but this leads to resentment. You would rather have people resent the process than the people, and then empower them to be included in an ongoing process creation, living doc, rather than just ask them to abide by mandates. Then you can glean wisdom from the radical but useful outsiders while better identifying the solitary assholes that don't share our values, allowing to deal with the latter more directly. There's something in here. It's just a little bit wordy, but there's something in here. And this is all emotional. This is like, right? That's why I use Max as a foil. It's like, I ain't fucking keep in touch with Max. I don't keep in touch with anyone in life. I got like fucking as many friends as I have fingers. I don't want to grow more fingers and I don't want to lose any friends. I fill them out and I'm good. And fucking, but I felt emotional, and then I was using him as a foil. So when I would write to him, I'd be like, it was like verbal diarrhea, but I know I have it to reflect on, and hopefully we helped each other form our opinions. You need that intellectual foil sometimes. Females are like that too sometimes. Like with Leia, like kind of attracted to her, but it was always more of a foil of a dialogue. Kind of hold it against her that she's ignoring me. But then I have to acknowledge other people's feelings sometimes. I'm too harsh for people. Just different types of people, maybe. Oh, Leia. Reading about this Occupy stuff got Leia in my head now. Very unique human being. You'd rather have the people resent the process than blah, 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 blah. The following is the best example of our form of consensus I've gathered. 100% consensus is dictatorship of the asshole. 90% consensus is the philosophical belief or hope that in a room of 10 people, at least 9 of them can act reasonably, or else we're all fucked. So really, to get finances buy-in, it's all about the pitch, and they've experienced enough resentment to be open to a neutral code of conduct firewall to stand behind, lest I have to paint the picture of the rabble storming the financial Bastille, lusting for Pete's head. Pete Deutero or something, or Pete some shit. He was a fucking tattoo artist who for some reason thought he was the guy to take charge of finance. That's a dipshit who got caught walking out of the fucking W Hotel by the New York Daily News. Occupy Wall Street protesters staying in fancy hotels. He's like, what? I'm tired. I'm tired of sleeping on the street. It's like, no one asked you to fucking join us. No one asked you to fucking join us and then get involved in finance. And definitely no one asked you to join us, get involved with finance, feel like you're working too hard where you need a fucking break by spending $300 on a hotel room. No one asked you to do any of that shit. You're just being a fucking dumbass. And then once he was like, yo, Shaz, I was in finance collecting money for my fucking Occupy Farm shit. Yo, Shaz, some people are saying like you're a con artist or something, man. You're moving awful quick. You're doing a lot of things awful quick. I said, P, calculus to the child might look like magic, but it's just high mathematics. And then like the other people in finance laughed. Like, And he's like, I took calculus in high school, okay? I'll have you know. I was like, you fucking missed the point, you fucking dipshit. But he was just, people didn't question him because he had a lot of tattoos and he looked funny. But he was a roughneck fucking dumbass dipshit. I say that because it's like, how much more evidence do you need that someone's a jackass? You don't know me and you insult me and you accuse me of shit. And you're the one who was fucking caught in the paper stand at the hotel and you're still on finance. You're disgraced, dude. Get the fuck out of here. Like, be a protester. Be a part of our movement. Why do you want to be in charge? So many people just wanted to be in charge just to be in charge. And then when they questioned me, I was like, fucking take it. Take the money. Take the responsibility. I'm not here for that. I'm here to observe. I'm the Shaz. Shaz, I'm the wild. I'm just the fly. Or the bumblebee. The anarchist bumblebee with my dagger of truth sticking out of my butt. Pete. I saw his name and I had to go off. Pete Dutro? What the fuck was his last name? Pete. Maybe that was a guy I went to high school with. These fucking names and you store them somewhere. There might be pushback because funny money has been flittered. I don't think we have massive embezzlement issues, which I've seen before in my folks' insurance agency. I'm working on that. We just have to get the best practices in place and say from here on it's done this way with a forgiving tone. So people aren't defensive about however they budgeted themselves in the past. Look at November 24th. I'm trying to get us to turn a fucking actual nonprofit movement. Like, get a fucking nonprofit out of this. A 501c, whatever, fucking. Get a way for people to give us money out from under George Soros's thumb, that fucking Tides Foundation that we're collecting all our money through. Financial independence is the fucking first thing about entrepreneurial spirit. It's just like, I would rather be the head of a lion than the tail. No, I'd rather be the head of a mouse than the tail of a lion, is what my grandfather would say. If you want buy-in for reform, you can't crucify. Rather give people an out and move on to better practices that will prevent mistakes from repeating themselves. That's my take. Regarding the bulk of your email discussing the GA, this is really useful stuff. That's exactly why I appreciate being in dialogue with you. You're much more familiar with the power structure we're working with. It's a very important distinction you're making, one that I know I need to keep in mind. For the sake of efficiency and just getting things done, I don't want to think I have to process things through GA when in reality it's not a GA issue. For the sake of democratic principle, I don't want to fall into the trap of doing things autocratically. This horizontal, empowering anarchic but democratic system we're a part of is completely new to me. Since it's all organic, our actions become included, embedded, especially if we're instituting reform into the system. I definitely want to err on the side of humility and pick your brain before I do anything impulsive, which is basically where I'm at now. I'm trying to be productive, helping with ComHub, and running an ad hoc residency group to source possible homesteading sites, among other things. But I'm trying to hold back on major actions, the whole step up, step back thing, not quite succeeding in taking less and listening more and allowing myself to process. Right now, I'm realized that my interests have scattered too much. For example, the following is a list of what interest groups I've been working with or trying to formulate. Archives, cognitive rights, drug war, use reform. Never got that one off the ground. Mobile occupation, non-traditional outreach. Occupy, never got that one off the ground. That was like our outreach to fucking diehard Republicans, conservatives. Occupy farms, OWS University. Resident in adverse possession, homesteading. Did a little of that when I squatted my apartment. Truth and reconciliation. That's my big plan on like how to end these endless wars of aggression. We got to reclaim the historic narrative, which means bringing everyone together, including our victims, into the honest accounting of our history and what we've done. The fucking American genocide, all of our wars of aggression for profit. Not to mention a 10-week review ad hoc task team and whatever other minutia comes up day to day, plus recording oral history interviews when I can. I was reading Studs Terkel right before this, and I was like, I need to get the oral history. I need to fucking get these fucking stories. Imagine if I fucking left Occupy Wall Street with 100 oral interviews. Where are those? You're saying that there's no fucking oral historian who went to Occupy Wall Street and took our interviews? Oral history of Occupy. You know, for all the people taking video and like saying that they were fucking producing media and this and that, I haven't really seen much. An oral history of Occupy Wall Street. We just disappeared. We disappeared out of the history books. It's so crazy. Yeah, there's a bunch of people. This is stuff, if I was going to do the book, I'd go and look up the fucking biggest project. Not the biggest projects, just some good projects, some dense projects where I can tell these are actually people that were like there. But that's what the thing is. That's, I guess, my benefit is since I was there, I can tell people were actually there. This is what was going on. Max was a big guy. Everyone knew Max. He was involved. That's why I picked his ear. I picked his brain and got his ear. Because he was at the heart of most of the organizational issues. That Egyptian delegation, he was in those meetings deciding whether they should go or not. We were trying to get big tents, military tents, and they evicted us right before the military tents arrived. And then we would be more entrenched than ever before. They were going to allow us to clean up the park. They said it was for sanitation. We had military tents coming where we were going to get everyone out of their little private tents, and we were going to fucking actually have men, female tents and shit, and like tents based around working groups, and then actually organize the park a lot more. We were going to try to keep the land, but just get rid of their excuses for getting rid of us. We were going to create a fire code where you can actually like space in between the fucking walkways and shit. We were going to create walkways through the park. We were basically going to like bring our occupation up to code to get rid of their excuse that it's a fire hazard or it's not sanitary. But they evicted us before he could do that. But Max was involved in those tents. He was involved in like he was involved in the housing when I told him we're losing the church. He knew the people on that. He was like it's interesting how these people had so much power. Why? Just because he was good at working with systems and he was intelligent. And not to mention a 10-week review, ad hoc task team, and whatever other minutia comes up day to day, plus recording oral history when I can. I don't sleep, become less productive, less creative, get tunnel vision, yada yada. And what is this? Burnout. But I got some good sleep last night with the help of your email and a little motivation perspective. There's like a whole nother page. Damn, Shaz. Thanks for seconding the OWSU priority. I feel I need to wipe the task slate clean and get the process up and running first. That would address a lot of our org needs, perhaps not in the short term, but it's an engine of reform and standardization that would do a great deal of fire prevention as well as show us to direct resources to a host of other future projects, street teams, outreach, ambassador, labor projects, and so on. Plus, in-processing conversations are very emotional and remind you why you're here. That's that girl when she cried with me in front of Max when I was trying to in-process her. That's what I guess, like, he realized, like, I was intelligent enough to talk to. He was like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing what I think we should be doing. I'm not really sure what I'm doing, but someone should be helping orient these new people. And I would do it whenever I would find a new person who seemed a little lost. I'd be like, look, this is organization as I see it. That's what I realized in real estate, too. I'm good at explaining complex things, which is why I came back to politics. It's a gift to break down the complex in simple terms and put people at ease. And people have told me repeatedly in real estate, I felt so confused and lost before I found you. And you turned a complex process into a comforting one. And that gave me a lot of esteem and motivation just on a purely skill set level. But now we're trying to be a little more idealistic as well. Plus, in processing conversations are emotionally loud. Talking to noobs on a daily basis, firing them up would be a source of constant motivation, which would then fire me up to attack all the other stuff. I think you would benefit from this as well. I thought that's how he fit into my plans. It was like, Max would be a great onboarder. People liked him. He just had a really calming presence too. But emotions, I could tell you, he's a little bit over his head with some of that emotional shit. Sorry for the long email, but your thoughts helped put things in perspective as well as writing this out. That's the human connection. That's why the human connection is so important. A little bit of outside perspective riding under the belly of the empathic ram. Just throwing all of my literary shit in there. That metaphor work for you? Regarding spokes council, guy go, garbage in, garbage out, I think that it's difficult to build a complex system on inherently flawed building blocks. The working group model is more of an arbitrary giveaway of power and money with not enough clear written processes, transparency, and public oversight. If you look at every breakdown of the spokes, it has been because people have become defensive to the perceived taking away of this arbitrarily gifted power. That's why this is all really good historical shit. Because what I would do if I was going to write the book is I'd go through this. I'm telling myself for the future notes, future shots. If you're working on this book, this is how you do it. You take out all the fucking notes. Like, first of all, like, this is too many words. But all of the works, your personal works, and also stuff like this, you bullet point the idea thoughts so you could just review it within a minute or two. So like this whole thing that's taking me an hour, maybe 2 hours to read these emails. You want to just bullet point what we're talking about. And this would be a bullet point like working groups, organization, and then how did those come up? And then what were those structured? How did they, if we are arbitrarily giving it to people and then limiting that power, now we're creating incentives for people to, I'd have to step back. I'd have to be in another mind state. But there's cool stuff in this to investigate further, which also align with historically how anarchists and socialists and communists were organizing at the mid to late 1800s in response to the Industrial Revolution. So populism and political organization at the bottoms of society, organically, grassroots upwards, is a relatively new phenomenon after we got rid of the divine rights of kings and after the revolutions, American Revolution, French Revolution. We really started questioning, not just like from the Magna Carta stuff from the 1200s and that people have inalienable rights even if they're serfs, but people actually started challenging the whole king system. And then that's where the anarchists separated from the social democrats who were like, well, we're going to be invested in the democratic system. The anarchists just saw farther down the line. We're like, we might not even need democracy, really. And that's where like Pruden and some of these other guys are like, we might not have to work that much. If we actually shared the means of production in common, we could go back to that hunter-gatherer efficiency where they only work like an hour a week, 2 hours a week or something like that. The very efficient ways you can organize society even without technology. So this rat race that we're in right now, 40 hours a week and all this other shit, it might be a lot of bullshit. We might just be supporting a very weird lifestyle of elites at the top of this pyramid for no other reason than that's the only way we've known how to do it. That might be the sad truth of our objective reality, is we're all working so hard out of fear that there's no other alternative, even though history provides us plenty of examples. And then when you go and try to do an example of an alternative, people are like, oh, whoa. We can't have the threat of a good example. Literally what our leaders have said, we can't have the threat of a good example to corrupt our fucking little fearful slaves, right? Shaz, you're never going to get through this. If you look at every breakdown of the spokes, it has been because people have been defensive to the perceived taking away of this arbitrarily gifted power. That's why the conversations dissolve into personal attacks. You can't just look at the reasons and what they're saying. You have to look at the rationality. What I see is people who are actually wary of the process itself because they're afraid that they will be disempowered because they inherently suspect that they have accumulated unjustified positions of authority. Oh, I'm getting into this is interesting. The psychology of these people and why they were lashing out when we tried to take away their positions of authority. It's like you joined a movement, you didn't fucking think you were going to become CEO of a working group or like vice president of distribution, but like these guys who got into fucking the supply room and all of a sudden they were managing the clothes, so they started acting funny. Once we gave them a little power and authority, then they started acting like this was their job, and we'd have to remind people, yo, we're just trying to fucking organize shit. It's really... But they feel like there was a lot of insecurity going in there too. A lot of these people, like poor people, and you give them a little authority and a little fucking this or that, and they haven't really had it before. Like me too. It's like we freak out. We're like, oh, and now there's like an internal dialogue about insecurities going on that's being projected. Like that one dude, he's like, oh, you Gucci, boom, hit him. That kid didn't deserve to get hit, but it was just a miscommunication that just went off the rails. Again, this could be addressed not by crucifying, but acknowledging the gorilla in the room and giving people an out while instituting measures that will prevent similar mistakes. So I guess I was saying, like, let's have standards for positions of authority that we're just giving out in our movement, but do it in such a way that we're not going to alienate the people that we've given those positions of authority to. So let's try to train them up to the positions that they're currently in. But if they're not trainable to the level that we need them, we're going to have the hard discussion, but sooner than later. But yeah, basically, so like in processing standards, I was looking at it like a fucking CEO would an organization. Like, all right, what's going on in this organization and how can we fucking... I know that now because I know I can grow a business, but back then I had that insecurities. Like, oh, my mom's now, she's bitching at me. I'm like, yo, dude, I made a more successful business than you have, so just chill. What are your values? Making money, I've done that. You do what I've done. And that's what I tell her in insurance, but I hadn't done it yet. I'd be like, I could do what you do. You can't do what I do. I'm trying to write books and change the world. You're selling insurance. And so I would sell some insurance to prove to her. I told her once, I was like, give me the reins of your insurance company. Let me make the final decisions and I'll grow this business. Otherwise, I'm out of here. And that's one of the reasons why I left. But that's just me being cocky. Now that I've done it in real estate, I mean, I shouldn't argue with my folks so much. I should just, I don't know. They're just strong spirits. You have to trust your intuition. Sometimes when I feel like they're being strong spirits to me, I'm like, I gotta push out a little bit. I am your child. You're a strong spirit, I'm a strong spirit. If I don't push out, you're gonna walk all over me. It's no offense. No, I don't want to give you guys heart attacks. And let's all love each other. She just texted me. She's like, I hope you're having a good day. I said, I'm doing my videos. That's good. I should send her a little heart. I'm sorry. I'm eating Pop's chocolate. We're eating our emotions. We eat dinner almost every night. I watch her fucking shows. I give them credit. I'm like, I hate CSI, Hawaii Five-0, so. Blue Bloods. I could watch some Blue Bloods. Even though the values are horrible. Roughing up drug dealers on the street. I'm just shuddering. I'm like, oh, cops are such assholes. And then anyways, the narratives and truth in our society are a fucking trip. How we create reality by reinforcing these bullshit narratives. Anyways, it doesn't matter what I think of spokes. I've retreated from the legislative bodies to fight battles elsewhere, further up the organizational stream. If spokes is as structurally and culturally flawed as I haven't read this in like 10 years, 8 years, but yeah, I glanced over this stuff when I put it on this stuff, but I didn't have time to. That's why I'm doing this. I'm also doing this because this is a passive way for me to review it, because I don't know if I'll probably go back and read the stuff if I'm writing it, if I'm turning it into something. But at the very least, I'm going to watch all these videos again within 2019, which is a passive way to get all the info again. I have to read it somewhat audibly then. Anyways, it doesn't matter what I think of spokes. I've retreated from the legislative bodies to fight battles elsewhere, further up the organizational stream. If spokes is as structurally and culturally flawed as I suspect, it will hang itself given enough rope. If not, yay. A funny anecdote, I actually warned them about the dangers of delegitimizing themselves by not addressing their problems. Inefficiency, poor facilitation, undemocratic decisions. The night we had that rogue GA about a week before the raid. That's where there's a rogue GA in the park. So spokes is having a meeting saying, we are the representatives of the working groups of the General Assembly. And the way that the authority is passed down is there were people who came out to protest. They had a General Assembly. Out of that General Assembly were born working groups. And then out of those working groups were born representatives who then meet together so they turn the spokes into a Senate. Is that you have two legislative bodies, but they were investing spokes with more authority over the purse and the messaging of the Occupy Wall Street movement than the General Assembly. So people were in the park being like, a General Assembly is a General Assembly of people. We could have one right now. There's 100 people in the park. And we weren't at spokes. So we started holding a GA, and it felt good because all the assholes were in their fucking private meeting. And that's when I ran over to the spokes, and I was like, you guys are delegitimizing yourself because all the people you supposedly represent are in the park speaking for themselves. And that might be the old world that we're bringing into the new. We're bringing representative democracy into a direct democratic process. And that's what that guy told me in the park, the old timer, when I met him when I was doing my vigil. He was like, spokes is supposed to be what you break out of GA in order to work on ideas that are too complicated for that General Assembly discussion. They're not supposed to be a parallel legislative body, because then we have two competing legislative bodies, and then they were trying to, and that's what Max was kind of citing on spokes. It's it's more organized. We can actually talk in there, and then with the rabble and the craziness. There's a lot of stuff going on Occupy Wall Street, theory on how to organize yourselves and govern yourselves at the lowest level of society. Literally strangers coming together in a public place, and then how to grow democracy from that. So why anthropologists, sociologists, we shouldn't study this and talk about it in our historic record if we care about democracy at all. This was democracy in action, literally. This was the seed of democracy, where a couple of people come together and say, all right, let's grow something out of this democracy, organize, just a conversation. Out of that came the General Assembly. The lessons we learn in Occupy can be applied to our whole democratic structure and the pitfalls we were falling into. The night we had that rogue GA about the week before the raid, I said, delegitimization comes not gradually, but as a flashpoint. And a couple hours later, that flashpoint was realized. It's just, it comes from people saying, hey, they're having that private meeting over there. They don't have authority to speak for us. That spokes council is invalid. In this park where we're living, and at the time we were also living in the park, us 200 people who live in the park are the heart of this movement. Let's have our fucking assembly. And fuck those assholes who are claiming to be our leaders. That's what was happening. And I went to that room and I was like, you guys are losing the heart of the people. And I was like, yeah, Shaz. Some guy told me once, he's like, you're the Holden Caulfield of Occupy Wall Street, aren't you? And I'm like, what? I know my literature. That's the Catcher in the Rye, dude. I'm not fucking. What you trying to say? I was like, that dude. He was also crushing on Leah Feder, I think. Everyone was. Leah was a cutie with the booty. A lot of people were eyeing her. That's what it is. We also have these social dynamics of like girls and guys will be girls and guys and like other stuff going on and like yeah, that's why you need a resilient group with values, and you have to know when you're working and when we're working on the project together, and when we're just being social, and when we're just trying to scratch that itch, if you know what I mean. It ain't bad. Don't be ashamed to scratch that itch. Some of us are itchy, and some of us got long claws. Some of us got claws longer than others. But I'm not worried. It's all organic and will take care of itself as long as we keep true to our values, which again is why OWSU is so important because it has the ability to become a foundation for those values. If you would like to be a part of this process of brainstorming and eventual representation or presentation, maybe even the implementation, you are the best facilitation trainer after all. Let me know. Regardless, expect that I'm going to send my thoughts your way unapologetically, unabridged, and in novel length. As always, don't feel committed to responding in a timely manner. I write a lot, ongoing conversation, man. Happy Thanksgiving. El Shaz. The summary. Agree with all your points. Reform is necessary, but implementation should be organic. It might take some creative thinking. The GA and spokes have their issues, but also works in progress, and all org issues might be better addressed through prioritizing OWSU, empathic RAM, SB. Ho, ho, ho. That was November 24th. 1, 2. I'm trying to find out. November 24th, 3. Okay, I think this is a duplicate. November 24th, 4. Yeah. So, and then this is when I was like, aw, I can never write too much for Max. He's a fellow cerebral. You know what? I only have 3 more minutes. So we're going to continue this in another hour. I'll do 1 more hour, and I will finish off Max. And then tomorrow, all we have is... So this will be the 5th hour. And then tomorrow, all we have is like 4 more occupied docs. Oh, this is so long. I thought it was long to do the fucking Iraq notes was 7 hours. This is like 10, 12 hours. But it's okay. This is okay. It is fucking... woe is... Sad as the artist. Not sad, but like... It is a journey to do something that you don't know when it's going to be done, and you don't know when or how much the financial reward will be, but you're processing your thoughts, Chaz. I'm getting a benefit out of this. I mean, like, yeah, you can't cut corners. You got to read all these words. And if I was doing the fucking, that's why I need a year and a half to write that book. Because there's a lot of emails. Max, I just picked out Max because we had good discussions, and he's a very identifiable figure, and he wrote for the HuffPost. So the last couple of these articles will be his articles for the HuffPost. But there's a lot of other people involved in that movement. Some fucking big names and organizers, people who are making their living now, supposedly messaging and populist movement direction. Some of them mention Occupy Wall Street, some of them don't, which makes you wonder what were the motives or who were their clientele when they were working for us. So one of the rules is you're supposed to disclose if you're getting paid by someone. I see a lot of similarities between Occupy Wall Street and social media groups like Reddit and others, where you have like secret money interests, secret agendas. There's a better practices way of organizing and communicating openly, transparently, with agreed upon values on why we're unifying. Like, it's not about just democracy. Any social media, social organization will start to trend towards either libertarianism or authoritarianism. And libertarianism might be an extreme, but authoritarianism definitely is as well. So you have anarchistic on one side, no rulers, and democracy is kind of like a compromise. And then representative democracy is a greater compromise, and then representative democracy with electoral college and a 2-party system is an even greater compromise. So it's a discussion of varying degrees of freedom, not of absolutes. Purity makes a poison. Will I be wiser at the end of this journey? I'm not sure. I have my clothes on, and I think that's a step in the right direction. I have my glasses back on. Yes. We are toned down, Shaz. I was a little bit crazy. It was getting a little bit crazy. We're back to toning it down. It's a marathon. One more week. We're gonna be finished by next Friday. Maybe Saturday. Friday for sure. I am going to say something very profound in the next 5 seconds.